So what I brought with me today is a few things to look at and so that people can actually handle them. So some different types of hearing aids and some assistive devices, and then we're going to have a chat as well about the sorts of things that might help with the hearing loss when you're out and about, or things that might help at home. Oh, you do great.
Good.
Okay, so let's first of all have a look then at the different sorts of hearing aids that we have. I'll pass around this one. This is a child's small hearing aid. The hearing aid is the turquoisey blue bit. There's a tube and the ear mould that goes into the ear, and then you can have a look and you can have a feel of it. It's better really sometimes to just get your hands on and find the different parts. There's three main parts to the hearing aid. The aid that does all the hard work, the tube that the sound goes down, and the ear mould fits into the ear and stops the sound leaking out.
When do they decide, because with the cutout, see, with the solid one, I don't know, is that?
Yeah, the cutout is dependent on the type of loss. So if you've got a bigger loss, you need a more solid ear mould to stop that sound from coming out of the ear, because what we don't want is your hearing aid squeaking or squealing.
We've had all the whistling and...
The whistling, yeah. So if they start whistling, it's a good indication that you need a new ear mould, and that does happen as children, particularly as they get older, or even as grown-ups, sometimes our ears change a little bit, or the ear mould just wears out, and then we need a new one.
And quite often with the children's hearing aids, they have a tamper-proof battery drawer.
Yeah, that's really important.
They have to have a special tool to be able to open the battery drawer, so to stop them being able to take out the button batteries from inside.
So this is one of the tools for one of them, and actually this is the trickiest one to get into, although we do have some children who are better at it than others, and if you want them to fit
and we also recommend that children who are older but have got younger siblings keep the tamper-proof battery drawer on as well.
We need to stop them getting at the batteries, so that they can't get in there, because it's really dangerous if they do swallow those batteries. Some hearing aid manufacturers are now moving towards rechargeable hearing aids. They cost a little bit more for the NHS, so they depends what area really you're in, whether your NHS will fund that or not.
Right. So how much are hearing aids? Are they free for everybody or free?
Yeah, free on the NHS.
For everyone?
Yeah, for everybody. Everybody who needs one or two. Yeah, you can pay privately. I don't think there's a lot of advantage in doing that at all. I think the modern NHS hearing aids are so good that you're going to get more or less the same privately.
I mean, you see them advertised, don't you, with a tiny little thing you can't see, but I'm guessing that's for a very slight hearing loss rather than...
So I have a tiny little one with me that goes into the ear canal. There's nothing on the outside, and people like those for cosmetic reasons, because they don't want anything to be seen. But they don't give such a good sound at all, and you're not going to have all the features and all the high level of processing that you'll get on a hearing aid. There are different sizes hearing aids depending on the loss. So a bigger loss would need to be more powerful, so it will have to be a bigger size hearing aids. But they do, I mean, for children, particularly on the NHS, in a lot of areas come in different colours. Adults tend to be a little bit more of a dull colour range, but you can always put stickers on them and decorate them. And if anyone wants to have a look at mine, I've mine are decorated, because that's the sort of person I am. So I've got standard NHS ones, and I've got nail stickers.
So
on
where
them.
are yours?
Where are mine? Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So they're not like old-fashioned hearing aids, which are really big and beige, and older people particularly like, no, I don't want a hearing aid because they're so big and they're so ugly.
Can you wear glasses with them?
Yeah. You can, and sometimes to wear glasses, things like how your tube is positioned, you might want your tube a bit longer, just so that it sits just above your glasses.
You've got moulds, have you? Have you got moulds?
No, I've got domes and tubes, because my hearing loss I don't need moulds yet. So again, that sort of fitting depends on your loss, what type of loss you've got. Yeah, because they're trying to stop feedback, really, stop it coming back in, and after a certain level of volume that's coming out of the hearing aid, you can hear it outside, so you've got to keep it in the ear for that. Hearing aids need looking after. They're only as good as they're looked after, really. Batteries is fairly straightforward, but you've also got to keep your tubes in good condition because they go hard and narrow.
They certainly do.
Yeah, and when the tubes
Yeah.
go hard and narrow, then that's restricting the sound. Your
How
sound
do you
level
keep them in
would
good
decrease.
condition?
So you clean them. Where's my kit of tools that I take into schools?
We carry a little kit of tools around.
Kit of tools.
And retubing quite often. So as soon as we sort of feel that they're starting to get a little bit hard, we support the children to retube them themselves. Or if they're too young, we retube them for them. So we teach them that skill of independently trying to retube them.
Variety of tools, brushes or little picks to pick the wax out on the end of this one, and this one's even got a little magnet on it that you can use for your battery if you
Yeah.
like. And then others have got sort of longer
I
brushes
think they might have them though.
that you can push through. Yeah, it depends what type of hearing aid. Some of these come with the hearing aids, others you buy. I mean, in my kit very badly I have a paper clip because sometimes actually that's really useful just to get those bits of stubborn wax out. That's not official though. Because there are tools that will do it, and you can get like flossing tools that go all the way through your tube as well. I've got some here. Wow, that's good.
And these supplied on the NHS? Or
No, unfortunately these sorts of things you have to buy.
Yeah.
So this is like a big like flossy thing in there, and you sort of do, what's it, with all the children do their flossing, that's what it's called, isn't it? Yeah, so you sort of floss it backwards and forwards through your tube to get anything out of it. But a really, really good way is to just put the tube and the ear mould in a cup of warmish, soapy water, not too hot now, and just let it soak, and that will soften off things that are in there.
Under a tap or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And an old toothbrush is really useful.
That's a good idea.
But if your tube is really clogged up because your ear's getting rid of a lot of wax, which is great because we want it to come out your ear and into the tube, we don't want it to get compacted in your ear. Sometimes the easiest thing to do is to just get yourself a new tube and pop that on. So learning to do your own tubes will save a lot of time going to back and forth from audiology. Yeah.
And how often do people have hearing aids replaced?
The hearing aids themselves, it really depends on the type of hearing aid that it is and whether there is an upgrade available or whether there's a fault with the hearing aid. So they tend to keep the same hearing aid for quite a while, really.
3 to 5 years
Yeah.
normally.
Yeah.
I mean, at the moment, the technology in hearing aids is advancing quite quickly, and that's a big reason because people want to connect them to their mobile phones and things like that now.
Yeah.
So people are asking.
So Bluetooth is a really big thing at the moment, to be able to connect those digital hearing aids.
Naomi does, she's
Yeah.
got her phone. Because you used to hear them talking, you know,
Yes.
now.
Yeah,
Just
no,
straight there.
straight through.
Yeah, just straight
Yeah.
through.
Direct input.
Yeah,
Really
much
good.
better. Isn't it? You like it, don't you?
But also if somebody's hearing needs change, you might need to change a hearing aid for
Yeah.
that reason. The NHS recommend a hearing test every 3 years, but you might need it more often. If you notice that they're not quite doing as well as they were, go and ask for them to be retested. And then just reprogrammed or just tweaked a little bit.
And where would you go to get a hearing test? I mean, I know you can get free ones in Boots and...
Yeah.
Well, Boots do a screening test. They don't do it, it's not a
Yeah,
full,
yeah.
thorough hearing
Okay.
test, but they'll tell you if through their free screening whether you need to go on to have another hearing test. And you can choose to do it through Boots, through the NHS if you want to, or you can go and ask for a referral to audiology. So your GP should refer to audiology, or your specialist, your consultant in the clinic can do that as well, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And then you're likely to see somebody in the ear, nose and throat department, so an ENT consultant who will just have a look at the physiology and that side of it and any other things that might be going on. And then the audiologist will test the hearing and then work out what sort of hearing aid is best and fit the hearing aid to match your hearing loss. To boost those sounds where you need it and not boost it where you don't need it. And you might have to go back. You know, if you're not keen, you're giving it a couple of weeks, you do need an adjustment to the sound, you know, for your brain to kind of tune back into that change. But if you're still missing in some particular situations, the more information that you can go to the audiologist with about what's difficult hearing and what sounds you don't like, and then they can just tune it a little bit more to fit your personal needs.
Well, my son, he wears hearing aids and he does struggle, and I think he can get them sorted out for you. I mean, he hasn't been for about a year or so, but when he went, he said all they're doing is making it louder and that doesn't help. And he just said, it's too loud, so I have to change it back again.
Yeah.
So we're sort of in that sort of catch-22
Yeah.
now, because of what's the best thing for
It's
him.
very difficult, and if you've got a sensory neural loss as well,
Yeah.
you might have a bit of distortion on that
Yeah.
sound. So, however loud you make it, it's not going to give you that clarity, and that's a really
that's
big
what we say, isn't it?
difficulty.
It's like a lot of the tests they do. Yeah, whether you can hear the sound or not, but it's not whether you're hearing it clearly or not. You know, so you were saying about that, weren't you, about speech?
Yeah.
So yeah, you can hear the beep, but
Yeah.
it's not the actual
Not the
detail of it.
speech.
Yeah.
And quite a lot of the work that we do with children in school, we look at their access to the clarity of speech.
Yeah.
And we feed back to audiology departments with the
Because they don't
children that we
test
work
do they?
with.
They test the sound, but
Yeah.
not the clarity of
Yeah.
things, which is, so then,
Yeah.
making it louder is not really going to help.
No, that's why you go back and ask and say, I'm having a bit more trouble with speech, can we fine tune the hearing aids for speech a bit
I mean,
more?
do they do any tests with speech?
Some audiology departments do. So,
Yeah.
and I think if you're particularly struggling with speech, mention it when you go to see your
Yeah,
audiologist and
yeah.
say, can we work on fine tuning my hearing
Yeah,
aids
'cause
so that I
we
can
did
work
have a
with
little
speech?
conversation about it, and
Yeah.
we were talking about cochlear implants and things. It's like,
Oh, then, yeah.
Yeah.
It can be a bit feel like that, can't
Yeah,
it, when
it
you
can.
go?
yeah,
There's
yeah,
so
not-
many decisions to make, especially if you're considering a change from hearing aids to cochlear implants. It's a big decision to make.
It is.
Yes.
And we were always, I don't know if it's changed, but we were always told that having the cochlear implants is that guarantees it will work, but it takes out any residual hearing, and if that's the case, she's like, I cannot be without my hearing.
I know a lot of people, they are changing,
They are
aren't
changing.
They're
They are
getting
changing.
better and better at keeping that residual
Because you don't
hearing.
Yeah.
really wanna lose
We are
that,
seeing children come back after a cochlear implant and they have still retained on their audiograms some of their residual hearing because the surgeons are so skilled and are so practiced now.
Yeah, because the electrodes as well and the
Yeah.
techniques that they use are much improved, so it doesn't damage the cochlear now
I
when
mean,
it
is there
goes
any,
in.
in terms of cochlear implants,
Yeah.
because some were saying, I want to wait until they get something better.
Yeah.
I mean, are they developing, because the ones I've seen, they're sort of great big things stuck on the side of your head and...
They're tiny.
Yeah, so
Oh,
this
better
is
now, yeah.
this is one manufacturer's type of cochlear implant, but it's pretty typical. It is fairly big, the bit that goes behind the ear, because it's doing a lot of processing in there. There's a huge computer packed into a very small space.
But there are there are certain brands that are no bigger than the biggest hearing aid now, really.
That's true, yes, some of them are. They are
The
getting
Nucleus
smaller
7
and
is quite
smaller.
small.
Yeah.
So Nucleus 8, so
The
it's quite
Nucleus 8,
small,
which-
isn't it, the new one?
Yeah, so
Which
that's
Rachel and Tim's son Rory has got. It's
much smaller.
Yeah,
It's
much
smaller
smaller.
than that.
Right, because you were
Yeah.
saying, because they were saying, well, it's just like having a hearing aid,
Yeah,
but it's
got the electrode part
it's
that
actually
goes
supposed to
in.
bypass it. and
Gosh,
go
it's
through
somewhere.
your
This is
mouth.
this
the
is
internal
yeah.
bit.
receive it, but not.
So this is the internal part that goes in.
yeah.
And it's just this tiny bit at the end that actually goes into the cochlear. And most of it really is a way of getting the information through the skin into the cochlear. So that it's just a very tiny bit at the end that goes in the cochlear. The rest of it is kind of cosmetically about where practically you can put the magnet part so that you can have the coil, which is where the information is going to be exchanged, and then you've got to send it down a wire to go into the brain. They've also started to produce ones that are just head worn, which are just like little discs that just fit, and that is it. There is no bit that goes behind the ear. We don't tend to use those with children because they're a bit big for their little heads, and they're just catching up on the sound quality really in them. They're getting
Not
there.
quite as, yeah.
The ones
clear.
behind their ears, they can pack more into those because when they're going on the head, you have to keep it lightweight, otherwise they fall off. And there's problems with that. You need stronger magnets, which isn't good for everybody. So the other sort of hearing aid that I mentioned earlier was the bone conduction hearing aid. You can pass that round as well if you like, and that fits onto just like a little, almost like a press stud that goes into the bone. And the most probably relevant to Wolfram, the use for that was if you lost hearing in one ear but not the other ear.
Okay.
So you might not be eligible for a cochlear implant on the NHS, but a bone conduction aid would send the sound from the ear that's not hearing through your skull to the other ear. So you would get both ears hearing in one ear. But because of the time delay, the brain can then sort out the direction.
It's only be used if you've got hearing loss in one ear then?
You could use it for loss in one ear, depending on the level. It's only useful for
So what is
a
this? So
certain
is there
point.
something underneath the skin for this as well?
Yes. I mean, you can have a look at that as well. That just goes on a little titanium pin that they just pop into the skull.
It's like a Preston.
You can also have them now with sort of sticky pads.
And it's the same technology that's listed like headphones.
That little tiny bit.
For
Bone
Yes,
conduction
those
headphones.
connections. Yes, yeah.
that's what my daughter uses for
Yeah.
headphones.
Yeah, bone conduction headphones are really good because you're still getting all your outside sound as well. It's not blocking your ears off.
Yeah, lots of people like to use those bone conduction headphones out and about, so you can still get the environmental sound and know what's going on around you, but you can hear your music through those bone conduction headphones.
The music.
Yeah.
It's just dependent on the sorts of losses. And then bone conduction ones are mainly used when it's your middle ear, so your bones, or that
Yes,
side,
yes, yeah.
those little ear bones,
Yeah.
that side of it, rather than a sensory neural loss. Okay, so where are we not to? So another thing you might want for your hearing aid are different programs adding to it, and one that a lot of people find useful when they're adults is a telecoil. So you would use that, you could use that in your bank or in the shops or in the theatre. I don't know if you can see my picture, the ear with the T. That's what that one looks like. And that's quite useful. Telecoil is possibly going to start to be phased out in favour of the Bluetooth system. They're not quite there on that one yet. It's in the System 8 processor already. They've got the new technology, but the rest of the world hasn't really caught up.
Sorry, what
That's
is
not
it?
hearing loss.
Auracast.
That's
I
a
think
hearing
it's
loop.
called.
Hearing
What's it
loop.
called?
What's
Auracast.
it do?
And it's a Bluetooth link. Right, I'm not sure how telecoil works, but the new one will link in a Bluetooth way.
It'll give a better signal than telecoil. The problem
It's to
with
do with frequencies.
telecoil is like a
What does it
physical
do?
wire in a room.
Oh,
Yeah.
when you're in a big room,
Yeah.
it sort of gives you that surround sound feeling, so your hearing aids can pick up on sound around the room.
The person speaking would use a microphone, or there'd be a microphone built into the room, and then it broadcasts it.
You can be at the back and...
But with the telecoil, you can get dodgy places where you're sitting. So I know people who use them in church, and they have preferred seats where the telecoil works better, and they'll have dead zones where it really doesn't work very well, and depending how far away from it will affect the volume as well. But so they're hoping that the Bluetooth Auracast will actually give you a constant sound all the way around. Telecoil is one thing, but you have to ask for these things to be added extra into your hearing aids. It's generally not given standard. And the other thing you can ask for is like listening to music program, which will give you a wider range of frequencies, whereas a normal program on a hearing aids will concentrate on those speech zones because that's what they want you to hear. But if you really like listening to music, you can ask for a music program, which will just extend it and give you a bit of a richer sound.
And when you've got those programs on, Beth, how do you control which program it's on? Do you use your mobile phone?
I do with my mobile phone. I have an app on my mobile phone. I have it here. So I can change the volume for each of my hearing aids. So if, for example, I didn't want to hear somebody on my left side and it's busy and I really want to hear Mel, I would put one up and I would put the other one down. I do that quite frequently. But I can also change it. So I can change it to the music program, which sounds a little bit different to speech, but I can hear it's just giving me a little bit more. It's less noise control going on that. And then I also have I have another program because I also have this, which is a remote microphone. So it's really useful. This is a large part of what we do in education. So somebody can wear this and it will send their sound straight to my hearing aids. And that's really useful because then it does away with distance. It just helps diminish the effect of background noise.
So the speaker wears that?
So the person speaking. Yeah, so if I'm out having a meal with a friend in a noisy restaurant, it's really difficult or on a train. I just gave it to my friend on a train not so long ago because it was so noisy, and we had a good chat because she could hear me okay, and then when she's got this microphone on, I could hear her
Is that
fine
an
as well.
NHS thing?
No.
No.
These you have to buy yourself, unfortunately, and there's all sorts of different ones for different hearing aids. These two are the Oticon ones. So the little black one is the one for grown-ups really, because this has got Bluetooth on it. So if you've got an Android phone, this will stream music straight to your hearing aids. So this is the reason I quite love this, because I can pop it on in the shops if I just want to zone out a bit. But then we use in education this white one as an edu mic, which does less than this one, but it's easier to use, much easier
So
to
what's
use.
the app that you use to do?
Well, for Oticon hearing aids, it's called Oticon Companion, is their new app.
Okay.
And then there's other ones for Phonak. Oh, if I popped it on
what
here,
is it
just having
called?
a quick look.
What's the app you've got? I don't know.
I'm not sure the name of the Phonak one, but I've got the three. If you can see the three little pictures, the Oticon one looks like the first one. The middle one is the Phonak one, and then the other one is the cochlear processors.
Right, yeah.
Most of them have them now. It does depend on how old your hearing aid
Because it depends on the hearing
is.
aid, because it used to be Phonak, now you're something else, I can't remember what it's called. But the app's be more. And so you can access, so she could do her phone, but we've not really explored it. I don't know if you can do music of that through, maybe we ought to look into it.
Have a look if you have different
Yeah,
programs
yeah.
added to it. Normally you
Like
can.
you having a volume and everything back.
So they do. Some of them do. To be fair, this is the older version of the Oticon one that I'm
Okay.
still running because I'm like that. I will be forced to change.
Yes, because they're discontinuing
They're
the older app
discontinuing
and
it.
starting the new
I think
app.
what's- give us that
What
feedback.
is on microphone, is it a little?
Yep. Where have I popped it? This one. This is called a Connect clip, but this works only with Oticon hearing aids. I don't use some of them. Yeah. So Phonak have one that work with their type
It's
of
a
aids.
little tiny microphone.
Do you want to handle it? Feel.
So it's a little microphone.
And Siemens, who do hearing aids, they have a different type of microphone.
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
so
I don't have examples of
So
those.
you give it to the person who's speaking, if you were in a different noisy place, they'd have it, you just put it on the programme, I guess, and then you could have a conversation without being
It might
sort of that distraction. You have to buy it, but if we knew what it's about, you probably have to get it from your, whichever does your.
So they're
your-
about £150, well
Okay.
70 to sort of 150 depending where you buy them. So shop around,
And it's
buy
through
them.
Bluetooth, did you
It's
say?
Bluetooth. It uses Bluetooth. Yeah, it's got regular Bluetooth in it to your phone, but it's also got a special Bluetooth that just goes to your hearing aids as well.
That'd be really good. We'll ask.
Take a photo of it or something.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to, and have a look at your hearing aids and see which ones you have and advise you a bit more. So what I'm going to do is just see.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so I think what might be nice is this is we call this one a radio aid system, and we use this in schools. It's the same principle as a remote microphone, and any of these microphones, when you wear them, you should have them really sort of, you span your thumb and your pointy finger not too far from your mouth, because you don't want to be picking up too much noise. That's the best position. If you pass around these headphones, let me just check, 1, 2, then you can have a listen. As I said, quite loud, and that's probably down to me. And it wouldn't go to headphones, it would go straight to your hearing aids. But it will help you just pick up that voice, and if you're a bit further away from somebody, or if it's a bit noisy.
Radio aid.
You have a little
It's a
listen.
radio aid.
This is,
That's supposed to, you can hear through it, so
so if I start talking, can you hear my voice coming
can
through
you hear it coming
it?
through? No, at the moment.
You can't? Okay. A bit quiet for that ear.
Yeah, no, I can hear it.
Yeah. Say hello, can you hear me coming
Oh,
through?
yeah, I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's like having somebody sat right next to you.
Yeah, that's right.
It makes it, and it goes straight to hearing. You can still hear everything else that's going on around you, unless you want to switch those microphones off when you can. You do have that ability on phone apps. But it gives you both things, and it prioritises whoever is talking. This is one that we use quite a bit in schools because it's very robust. It does a lot of great things for teachers. And we can plug it in as well to audio equipment, and they can use it instead of headphones like that. But it's a direct to the hearing aids.
I think the thing that our children like the most is when you put the mute button on, it flashes red, so it's really clear to the member of staff who's wearing it, oh, you've still got it on mute.
Our teachers
It's really obvious, because there's lots going on in a classroom and lots for a teacher to remember, so it's a really good visual aid for them to...
Because I work in a store, it's also remembering to switch it off.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
so they don't hear what they shouldn't
that's
hear.
Right. In a school, you don't want the children to overhear the bits they shouldn't, and they don't want to be distracted by that either.
No.
But, you know, as adults, you have a bit more control because you can use your mobile phone and control that a little bit more easily. This system is very expensive though, and there's cheaper versions of this for adults, but in schools we like it really tough because teachers drop things. And that works with a lot of different hearing aids, but you have to put a little receiver on and have a little pop that onto your hearing aid. But if you've got a phonak hearing aid, all of that can be disactivated inside, so you don't have to add anything to it. Oh, you've done that when you were at school.
Yeah, that's what I did.
So it's a very universal system, this one, that will fit a lot of different types of hearing aids, and it'll fit the Oticon hearing aids at the moment as well, not future generations, but for now. And there are similar things that go on to cochlear processors as well, to do the same thing, that we can fit to them, or they have their own little microphones that work directly. There's a lot of solutions, all the different things. Thank you. We've got lovely and technical now, hasn't it? All the extra things that you can do.
You don't trust me at all, there you go, don't behave your clumsy.
It's not solving every problem you have when you have hearing aids, but it's helping. There are things that can assist and help with those other things. Another thing that's really useful on mobile phones are speech-to-text apps for people, you know, who are quite good at reading very quickly and things like that, and they've got really very, very good as well now. It's just using your phone to listen and then transcribe what's being said. You do need a good internet connection for that, but there's some quite good ones that, and there's in development a pair of glasses as well now that give you captions in front of your eyes, which is amazing. So things that are really, really speeding on. And iPhones do a little bit more with some of the hearing aid manufacturers, and speech-to-text with iPhone is a little bit ahead of, well, it was ahead of Android. I think Android is rapidly catching up now. So things at home that can help. In your pack, you've got the Con Evans brochure that hasn't got the prices, but it tells you all the things that are available. I'm not a sales rep for them, but we do buy from them quite a lot, and they're really helpful. And if I've got a problem, I phone them up and I say, I've got this situation, what have you got that might help? And they're real people and they will help. And they sell things like smoke detectors for your home that will connect to things like a vibrating pad to put under your pillow, so that if you're not wearing hearing aids at night time and you're not going to hear your smoke detector go off, it will vibrate your pad. The cost of those, I think it's about £120 upwards, but you don't have to pay VAT on these things either. You do a little declaration because it's an assistive device, isn't it, and you need it. And the other thing is, depending where you live in the country, sometimes your adult disability team or your children's disability team have funding for these, and sometimes your local fire service will also have funding for these things, and they can certainly help. Fire services are great. They'll come and have a look and they can give advice, and sometimes they'll even come and fit. Sometimes they even provide. It does depend where you are in the country. But they're very, very helpful. And with a lot of the modern smoke detectors, they're all interlinked, they'll all talk to each other, so you've got a setup in your house, so one will go off, they'll all go off, and your vibrating pad will go off as well. So that's a really good thing to think about for everybody, children and adults as well. I think that's the most important thing that I'd advise. The other thing is doorbells. So you can get doorbells that will flash your lights, so that if you can see that detection and that change in the light, you know that somebody's at the door because it's flashing the light. There's baby alarms as well that will give you a sensory feedback or will alert you if your baby starts crying. Alarm clocks, vibrating watches. And then other things to access that help you hear your television better, so things that you can attach to your television that will stream the TV sound direct to your hearing aids as well. And things that will go onto phones, so your main phone line into your house, you can have a device popped onto that will also stream direct to hearing aids with Bluetooth. So it's all becoming sort of amazing, really. Obviously, lots of technology going in to try and solve these difficulties that people are having in the real world, in the real world.
And I think our teenagers quite often use that TV streamer with their gaming system as well. So, you know, it allows them
gaming
to be able to hear what their friends are saying on their gaming system.
Yeah, it's really important. And for children, there's for help, there's the Ewing Foundation, and they're pretty hot on how to get children to access their gaming at the moment, with little microphones that clip into handsets, and then Bluetoothing. I think they're the experts in that at the moment, but they are really useful for helping. And there's the National Deaf Children's Society, they're great as well for helping for children, and then for adults there's a few others as well.
I think your local area will probably have a deaf children's society as well. So
Yeah, it's true.
Very good sources of support and advice.
Yeah, the RNID, isn't there, and a few others, quite a few online as well, who can help. And social care as well. You know, they do have an adults disability team, and there should be a social worker as well for people who are deaf or have a hearing impairment, and I'm assuming for visual impairment as well.
We've got Deaf Blind UK, haven't we?
Yeah, Deaf Blind UK.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that the Birkdale Trust is also quite a good source of grants for support. It's usually for specific things, but you know, you could approach them.
And Guide Dogs UK are very good as well, actually, especially for children, for providing things. They'll give sensory toy packs and all sorts, and advise on things. Yeah, really nice. Have a good Google if you're stuck. Google is great now.
Oh, God,
yeah. Any questions? Anybody?
It sounds like the microphone is quite helpful, gets you the noisy background that goes straight to the hearing aids.
Yeah, I think
I
so.
think that's one definitely one.
Yeah. It's a good thing to investigate.
It's only little, isn't it? You can just
It is little, it's very versatile.
discreet.
Yeah.
And if you can manage your phone app, you can control it as well,
yeah,
sort of the
quite.
volume of it, and whether it's on or whether it's off,
Good
and doing lots of other things with it. I have to say my main use for it is to stream music when I'm at the gym, but you know, it works really well like that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say to you guys, we got a grant from the Birkdale Trust, and that was for some speech therapy, because our son is quite young, and they were really, really good, but also because of some complications that our son Rory was having, they gave us a separate grant for private audiology appointments. So don't be afraid to obviously prioritise, but pick your most important one. Might be the microphone aid, like you said, some help towards that. But don't think, a couple of months later, we should have asked, ask again, but for different.
Is it a children's thing, or is
it was an old deaf school that was shut down, and now it's got like a board that gives out grants to deaf young adults and deaf children.
Might be too old,
You never know. It's worth asking. It's worth asking.
For it.
And there's things like access to work as well, if you're working, or disabled students allowance if you're studying when you're older. There's a lot of things out there.
Our son is 3, if you want to have a look. It doesn't, his cochlear implants. I thought that, oh my gosh, he's going to have these massive things on his head. Exactly the same. My dad being like, trying to be PC but very old school, he was like, he's going to have the massive things on his head. I was like, oh, Dad. But he's fine. But I was like, we were really surprised, weren't we? So if you want to have a look, I mean, our son is only 3, and they're really small now.
Probably I would say you get 2 batteries with them. One's like a big one that lasts all day,
Yeah.
and the other one lasts about 10 or 12 hours. The small one, I think the small battery is probably no bigger than her hearing aids as the whole thing that goes over
really?
the
Oh,
one
okay.
you've got at the moment.
Yeah.
And the big
Sometimes.
battery, but they're also, I think because they're really fancy, they're made of really light material, so the actual weight of them's less
That won't
than.
be.
Rory had the Oticon ones before,
Yeah.
and the cochlears are definitely lighter, but you
They're
haven't got.
smaller, aren't
they
they?
don't go in the
Cochlears
ear either.
than the hearing aids.
So
They're really
if-
powerful
when it's
ones
hot
and
and
lighter.
you know,
Yeah.
they get
Yeah.
like to drawing them out, it's different, that kind of stuff. So it literally just goes over the ear. We put a band on him because he won't have motor
He's
skills,
little.
He's only little. He's got a little pea head as well.
Yeah.
Bless him.
But they are literally. It's the new model got released in January this
Can
year.
I ask you how long the operation is? It used to be really long.
It's
wasn't
4 hours.
it? Oh, it's much better. We were told 8 hours, but originally,
Yeah.
yeah, 2 years back.
Yeah, I think with going there, putting them sick, you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then obviously with Rory's Wolfram, he stayed overnight, but
Yeah.
for most patients, it's just a day procedure.
Yeah. Because that's the other thing, you think if they've got diabetes and they're
Yeah,
trying to monitor
yeah.
To
that.
be monitored.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because of the anaesthetic,
Yeah,
we were
of
told
course,
more
yeah.
than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
It is a
It is
worry
just
making that
monitoring.
decision. It's a hard decision, isn't it? For either
Yeah.
as a parent or as a young adult making that decision, because it's an
The benefit
unknown.
we're seeing is immense with him, and if
yeah.
and daft it sounds, is like I was saying earlier on, because Mel's his teacher of the deaf.
Oh,
Yeah.
The distances that they cover, like and the Bluetooth, we had the Oticon one, the phone app one, wasn't it? We had the, and it was great. You could definitely get more range with him to be able to hear. Because obviously, if more than a few metres, you haven't got that hearing. But his cochlears, you can shout him across, or not even shout him loud, but 30, 40 metres away, and you get attitude back from him.
Yeah.
So you know he's heard you. What? Or something like that. Yeah. Or wait.
But his speech development, we've definitely seen a big shift
Yeah.
now
Yeah,
because
yeah.
not, if we're brutally honest, not so much Tim. Tim was like, I reckon this is our path, this is, you know, for Rory. But I was a bit more right up until the last second. I was like, I would have, you know,
Yeah.
shall we wait? And then obviously, because being so young, we had him genetic tested, and then we found out about Wolfram. We realised that because that was how he was presenting, and it
Yeah.
was quite a quick decline for Rory, that it was the way to go.
Yeah.
But I can totally understand why it is such a massive decision,
Yeah.
definitely,
Yeah.
because it is